A bill that would abolish the Texas Lottery Commission is now heading to Governor Greg Abbott's desk.
Two different jackpot wins led to state lawmakers looking into the legitimacy of the lottery. GMET's Marshall Farmer is here with a look at how the state lotto will work in the future and whether this will affect how you play. Marshall, good morning.
Good morning. After 32 years of the Texas Lottery Commission, it's now one signature away from being abolished. If it is, the lottery will be controlled by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. But does this change the way you play the lottery? First, you wouldn't be able to purchase tickets online. That includes paying for someone else to buy them for you. Also, you won't be able to buy more than 100 lottery tickets at a time. Tickets would also have to be bought during normal business hours, with age verification becoming a requirement under the proposed law. Finally, lotto vendors can't have more than 5 machines that print or create the tickets. The bottom line is that for the vast majority of Texas lottery players, you won't see any changes. But if you're used to online purchases or making bulk purchases, that would become outlawed. If the bill is signed by the governor, it would become law immediately, since it got a 2/3 majority vote in both the House and Senate. Lane, Deanna.
All right, Marshall, thanks for following this.